Good morning, you guys. It's your boy SimplyFoodByTy, and honey, we are going back in the kitchen. It is currently October 28th. It's Monday. So yes, I'm recording it this morning when you guys are going to be seeing the video. As you guys can see, my voice is trying to come back. So just be prepared for a very raspy cooking video, honey. But let's jump into the kitchen and let's make some apple butter, okay?
Do I have your attention? 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 Do I have your attention?
Is you taking notes?
All right, you guys, let's get started. So what we have are 12 apples here. We have 3 Fuji apples, we have 6 Honeycrisp apples, and we have 3 Granny Smith. You want to use a variety of apples, not all bitter apples, not all sweet apples. It just gives a great balance. And then you're also going to need 1 Tangaloo orange, or you can just use a regular orange. That is completely fine. That gives a little bit of acidity to the apple butter, which is really important when you think about the process of it cooking down. So all you're going to honestly need to do, if you have a fancy apple peeler, that you can use it, but don't waste your time going and buying one of those. Just chop down each of the side like you would any other apple. Avoid getting the seeds in and cut them into chunks. Now, what you do notice is that I'm not peeling them. Peeling the apples is the biggest waste of time. Don't let anyone tell you or try to convince you that you should do that. You don't have to. And one of the main reasons I say that is because if you keep the skins on, it also works as a natural thickener. So you'll already get a very nice and thick apple butter without really having to do much work at all, which is really important. So you want to make sure you have a nice large bowl filled with water and just a little bit of lemon juice. That way, your apples don't turn brown on you. And as you see, I have chopped all of them up, just into nice little dice-sized bits. That's about it. So I like to cook mine in a crock pot. This is a process that is going to take roughly about 12 hours. You can cook it on the stove top if you would like, but I would not suggest that because then you can't leave your house. You can't go run your errands. You can't go do, your everyday things that you would like to do. To where if you wake up early in the morning, as soon as you get up, put this in your crock pot, you're going to turn it on low, and then you can go off and live the rest of your day and not feel like you have to be stuck in the house. You want to make sure you try to drain off as much of the water as possible. Remember, guys, these apples, of course, are already naturally juicy, and you don't want too much liquid in it because then that's going to expand the amount of time that you would need to cook this, because we're going to try to cook off as much of the water as possible. Now, for the next thing that's about to happen, because I'm an idiot and I thought I had my camera on record when I was putting this stuff in, I'm now just going to tell you what's in this. So, of course, you already saw me put in the apples. The next thing I did was I added in 2 cups of light brown sugar, 4 tablespoons of the Tangaloo's orange juice. So that was just half of the orange. I added in 2 tablespoons of vanilla bean paste. Keyword vanilla bean paste. If you're going to use regular vanilla extract, do not put that in until maybe about when it's around the last hour. Don't put that in now if you're not able to find the paste. So just remember that. We're only going to use 2-3 cups of apple cider. You can use apple juice if you would like. I used apple cider because it's a little more concentrated. We're going to use a half a teaspoon of allspice. And then we're going to also use 4 tablespoons of cinnamon. Now, I don't add in any of the white sugar until after it has cooked down and I've emulsified it down. And I'll tell you why in just a few minutes. Now, of course, I just use my hands to mix this up so that it's all in one bowl. You want to make sure you clean up around the edge because, once again, this is going to be cooking for so long and you don't want to run the risk of, any of your sugar burning. So, just make sure the sides are nice and clean. So this now, you guys, has been cooking for roughly this was at about the 10-hour mark. And as you can see, it has drastically reduced, but there is so much liquid in there. So What you're going to want to do now at this point is take your immersion blender, or if you have a regular blender, you can transfer it to that. I like having this immersion blender on hand because I can literally do everything all in one pot. It just makes it so much easier. As you guys can see, it's steaming up. It's really, really hot. And the thing is if you are going to leave on the skins of the apples, then you definitely want to make sure that you're getting this as fine and as smooth as possible, because you don't want your apple butter to have hard bits of the apple skin. So that is one of the perks of having the immersion blender, because you can get this really, really nice and smooth. Of course, just make sure you're taking your time because this is really, really hot. But look, you guys, looking at this screen right now, this is without any of that water evaporating yet. This is still at the 10-hour mark. And you can see how thick that already is. And that is because we left those skins on. So that really does make the biggest difference in my own personal opinion. So at this point, now is the time when you should taste it to see if you would like to add any white sugar. And the reason why I said it's important to hold off on that is because every single apple is going to taste different, depending upon the time of year when you get your apples, depending upon the type of apples that you get, where you get your apples from, were they in season, were they not in season. That makes a huge difference. So in my opinion, if you add in the white sugar prior to the apples cooking down, you could run the risk of making a very overly sweet apple butter. And that's, to some people, they'll say, okay, fine, whatever. I love really sweet stuff. But in my opinion, apple butter is meant to be able to go on a little bit of everything. So you don't want it to necessarily taste like a dessert. So after I tasted it, I literally only needed to add in a half a cup of sugar. And you always want to add in a nice pinch of salt. And that was it. I didn't have to add in any more sugar. So in this particular recipe, this was only 2 cups of light brown sugar and a half a cup of white sugar, and that was it. So now that you've got that mixed in, it's emulsified down, you want to leave the top off and let it cook for an additional 2 hours, and look at how thick that got, you guys. At this point, all of the water has evaporated out of this apple butter. So this is still really hot right now, which is the reason why you might think, oh, well, it still looks really loose. To me, this is the perfect texture. You see how it's able to just sit on that spoon and not be runny? That's exactly what you want, because now we're going to transfer it to our mason jars. And as soon as it, sits in the refrigerator, I say for more than 2 hours, once it starts to get cold, it's going to get even thicker and thicker and thicker. And then it really kind of takes on that texture of the butter itself. If you're going to can it, actually properly can it, it can last up in your fridge and in your counter for a little over 2 to 3 months, honestly. Apple butter also freezes really, really well, you guys. So if you don't like to can, or if you don't want to stress about canning, you don't have to do any of that. I actually don't can them because they don't last, and I give them away. So that's the reason, why I'm not really going to be properly canning them. I'm using mason jars just because that's just the easiest way, to store them in the fridge. And without canning them, they last 3 weeks in the refrigerator. So that's still a really, really long time. This particular recipe made 9 of these half-liter jars, which is absolutely amazing, by the way. And it turned out fabulous, you guys. I truly, truly hope that you guys do try out this recipe. I think you're going to absolutely love it. It's the fall season. This is the perfect time to be making apple butter. You can give this away as gifts to holiday parties, to your family and friends. As we get further into the holiday season, this is definitely the time to make it now. And like I said, this particular recipe with those 12 apples made 9 of these jars, which is pretty killer, and I'm so ecstatic about how amazing it turned out. It goes really great on toast with butter. Some people use it to scoop on top of ice cream. You can make muffins with it, banana bread with it. you can do so much with it. It's pretty epic. But look, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. And as always, y'all babies stay cute and take care. Bye, guys. Have a good time.
Simply Food by TY.